Donald Trump was humiliated and Republicans were exposed in a heated debate on the Right Wing All In podcast, which is hosted by four right-wing tech multimillionaires/billionaires, one of whom is Trump's official AI czar. He's an official in the Trump administration, David Sachs, who admitted that Trump's big, beautiful bill cuts Medicaid. It slashes Medicaid, as he desperately tried to defend the merits of that bill to the other conservative co-hosts who were laying into Trump, calling him out for his abysmal, weak leadership. The whole thing is glorious. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we got a couple of clips to play here, but I actually want to play a segment at the very end of the larger clip I'm going to show you. This is David Sachs. He is co-host of the All In podcast. He's Trump's AI czar, and he's trying to defend the bill to these people, all of whom want major spending cuts to the federal government, including on the social safety net and entitlement programs. They want to see major cuts. And he's like, hey, listen, I know you don't like this bill, but it actually does cut. It slashes Medicaid.
This bill cuts $880 billion for Medicaid over a decade, which is something that already is politically tough and controversial. It imposes work requirements for able-bodied adults. This is similar to what Bill Clinton did back in 1996 with welfare reform, basically saying that you can't be a layabout and get welfare. So these are relatively tough things to do politically. It's like, do I want to see even more cuts? Yeah, absolutely.
So there you go, right? He's like, guys, I know you're upset that there aren't more cuts, but listen, look, he's taking huge political risks, investing a lot of political capital to slash Medicaid, to deny people, precious health care. Look at what he's trying to do. Trump is so brave. Give him some credit. That's the context of this particular discussion, undercutting Republicans who are saying, no, we're not cutting Medicaid. We're just cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. David Sachs totally sandbagging them in an attempt to defend Trump's bill. It's hilarious. The politics of this are hilarious. Let's play the broader clip, though, towards the end of the conversation. These co-hosts were like taking shots at each other all the way through. They were getting pretty fed up. I mean, Sachs was the one kind of outnumbered here because he's the one most proximate to Trump politically and therefore is trying to defend Trump's big, beautiful bill, whereas the others are laying into it. And they get pretty harsh about Trump in the process.
We're able to solve the power generation problem in a reconciliation bill.
And I want to just add my 2 cents at the end here. Leadership starts at the top. This president acts unilaterally all the time, whether it's immigration, DEI. He has no problem. And this is what he is doing. He's endorsing this bill. He's saying it's big, it's beautiful. He is saying this is historic. I think this is bad leadership. I'll just say it straight out. He was elected to balance this budget and to have austerity. He's going to put more onto the debt. And we sat here on this very podcast, the four of us, and said this was the most important issue on the world. And Trump is putting gasoline on the fire. I think it's bad leadership. Let's continue on the dock.
Brutal. Okay. Now, again, I don't support the austerity politics where we slash federal spending, certainly not from social safety programs like Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. I think you have to protect those at all costs. If you want to cut spending, you should eye the defense budget before anything else, and Trump is unwilling to do that. As a matter of fact, he boasted recently, he's like, people are like, why don't you cut the defense? But I'm not going to cut 10 cents from it, okay? Which is hilarious because progressives like Cenk Uygur, so-called progressives, were like, oh, Trump might even slash the defense budget, and he's actually making it bigger than ever. So I disagree with some of the starting point, the priors that these people have, but it's hilarious that they are calling him out in truth by saying he's actually adding to the debt and the deficit as he did in his first term. Trump deficit spent all 4 years in office. He added more to the national debt than any president in a 4-year term, including President Biden. And so by fiscal conservatism, Trump was very profligate. And I like how this host, Jason Calacanis, is saying just as a matter of principle, Trump is failing objectively on the things that we used to say are important. But David Sachs in particular likes to move the goalpost because he grades Trump on a curve and he's not particularly principled. And he gets pissed at Calacanis' position on this.
I suggest you look at the Constitution because the power of the purse rests with Congress.
He's endorsing this. He's endorsing it, Sachs. He's not even putting up a fight.
When it comes to immigration, these other areas, the president has far more unilateral power, and he's used that every chance he gets. But when it comes to spending, you have to get Congress on board. This is a bill that passed with a 1-vote margin. I don't know where you think the opportunity is to squeeze out more concessions from Congress. I don't
He
think
could
it's
speak
there.
up. He could speak up and say, do better. He's doing the opposite. He's doing the opposite.
This bill passed by a 1 vote margin. It was hanging on by a thread. And if it failed, you get basically hundreds of billions of tax increases, which we don't need right now.
He's not even trying.
in terms of, I think he's trying. In terms of Republican prospects, look, people vote for Republicans to do two things: cut taxes and cut spending. I wish that this bill did 2 out of 2. It does 1 out of 2 with some of the second one, like with the Medicaid stuff. If we didn't at least cut taxes, there'd be no reason to vote for Republicans. None.
Y'all are much closer to him than I am. You all should be challenging him to not endorse this and to do the opposite. That would be the profile and courage.
Then we get
And
the biggest
leadership
tax
starts-
increase.
So stop right there, because it's interesting. Sachs supports a man who clearly doesn't give a shit about the Constitution, because Trump also wants to impound funds, and now he's saying so. Trump tries to usurp the power of Congress all the damn time, and Sachs apparently doesn't have a problem with it. Then when Trump backs something which is not fiscally conservative or commensurate with their previously stated principles, then he throws his hands up and says, "Well, listen, I mean, Article 1 grants the power of the purse to Congress," which is true, but that means that Trump also can't impound funds, dumbass, which means you should take probably a principled, outspoken stance on that. Say, no, because the Constitution confers the power of the purse, I do not support and I categorically oppose any attempt by Donald Trump to circumvent Congress with respect to, again, in budget impoundment and things of that nature. So he talks out of both sides of his mouth, number one. Number two, Jason Calacanis' position isn't that Trump should try to usurp control of Congress, even though, again, he's actively doing that and they don't seem to mind all that much. What he's saying is Trump should use the bully pulpit and his influence over the Republican Party to publicly try to pressure these Republicans aggressively to make it more fiscally conservative. That's not violating the Constitution. That's using the political power of the presidency to try to influence, not unlawfully, not with investigation or threats, to use his political influence as the head of the party and the most powerful man on earth to try to pressure these Republicans to take a different position. There is nothing unconstitutional about that, but Sachs is either too stupid or too dishonest and just keeps missing Calacanis. There's no contradiction here. There's nothing about what Calacanis suggests which violates the Constitution. And Donald Trump likes to violate the Constitution with impunity. As a matter of fact, he publicly argued that it should be terminated, if need be, in order to return him to power back in 2022. So again, the pearl clutching over Trump's respect to the Constitution is just bullshit. But yeah, we'll continue.
Recent
At the top.
decades. Great.
No,
Well,
he should just go to everybody and say, do better.
I don't agree with that tactic. I think the better tactic is to do what he did, but then work behind the scenes and help the Senate implement the technical guardrails that make the bill better than it as is. Look, nobody thinks that this bill is going to pass as is. It's going to go through its own set of changes in the Senate. Now, I think the opportunity is to understand these puts and takes with a little bit more detail and a little bit more mathematical precision and fix it. So I still hold out hope that we're going to get to a better place, but he's going to have much more influence, Jason, by actually taking the positive path than throwing everybody under the bus. The real question will be in 30 days or 45 days, what is the final version of this thing? And whatever gets passed and signed by him, there will have been enough time to understand it, and you'll see the real-time reactions. All I'm trying to indicate is I think that this was a moment where people were very pensively optimistic that the approach of Doge would really be embraced and that we'd see some broad-scale attempts to at least, and Freeberg said this, just to go back to 2019. Even if we don't do anything else, just go back to 2019, pretend COVID didn't happen.
Yeah. And we would be, by the way, if we did that, we would have a budget surplus and the bonds would be trading down to 2% yields again. I mean, we would be in such an incredible condition. We've got 2% inflation right now. Anyway, we don't need to beat the dead horse. Let's move on to Google.
I wish there were 218 members of the House who thought like
I hear
we
you.
did.
I hear you.
Oh, gosh.
I hear you.
Listen, this guy is saying he's going to primary anybody who,
Jason, I don't think it's
right.
right.
He should be speaking up right now.
I'll tell you what,
are,
give him the line item veto and then let's talk.
Right.
How about you saying, guys, spend less money? He doesn't have to throw him under the bus, Chamath. It could be something very subtle.
But you make it that way. The way that you position it is like you make it such a black and white thing, and it's I think
Speak up is a black and white. He's
there's
saying
a lot
this
going
is a
on.
great bill.
No, but what I'm saying is he is. I'm guessing. I don't know, but I'm going to assume.
Okay.
working behind the scenes. And what you're saying is he should virtue signal and prognosticate in public.
Nope.
And I'm saying that
I never said
will
virtue signal.
not make. That's what you're asking him to do.
No, I'm not. I'm asking him to say reduce spending in the bill because that's good for America.
This bill cuts $880 billion for Medicaid over.
And then we end up full circle. Okay. So again, if you actually watch this, David Sachs' three co-hosts here are very critical of this bill and Trump's support of it. They just disagree on how Trump should publicly or privately, whether he should publicly or privately oppose the bill or try to maneuver to make it more fiscally conservative. But again, every which way, it's pretty critical of Donald Trump and not at all good for him. Now, I want to take a look at this Rolling Stone article, if I can just get this damn ad out of the way. I'm not sure why it's not doing that. I don't want to hear about the 2025 American Music Awards. I do like the Rock Hall of Fame Awards 2017. Journey got inducted in its first nomination. It was a good show. Anyway, so Trump advisor admits Republican tax bill makes huge cuts to Medicaid. David Sachs, the president's AI and crypto czar, says the quiet part out loud as Trump and Republican leaders pretend they are not slashing Medicaid. Trump and Republican leaders keep pretending they aren't cutting Medicaid with their new tax bill, which will further enrich the wealthy and pay for it in part by significantly slashing Medicaid, the government health insurance program for low-income and disabled Americans. Oh, can I please get rid of this? Nope, apparently not. Trump, who has repeatedly promised to protect Medicaid, and House Speaker Mike Johnson have both claimed that the Republicans are simply targeting waste, fraud, and abuse in their tax bill, which passed the House last week. And it quotes David Sachs on his All In podcast. We play the clip. Like Trump's 2017 tax law, the GOP's reconciliation legislation is expected to disproportionately benefit the wealthy. This year's bill will even reduce the after-tax income of households earning less than $51,000 per year. It's also expected to force at least 10 million Americans off Medicaid, according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. This carnage will primarily be achieved by imposing work requirements, a demand that any able-bodied Medicaid recipients work at least 80 hours a month. Such requirements, which have previously failed at the state level, would come in addition to the program's existing income caps. Taken together, this means that Medicaid recipients will be expected to work low-paying jobs and deal with burdensome paperwork demands if they want to maintain their insurance coverage. Many eligible recipients will likely lose coverage due to the added bureaucracy, as well as the fact that there have been multiple audits on Medicaid, and the vast majority of Medicaid are working, number one, and number two, those who do not work are eligible for an exemption. It's because they're taking care of sick parents and things of that nature, so they are exempt within the confines of the law. But if you continue to add stringent burdens to this, you increase the likelihood that eligible recipients will leave the program, which is why multiple analysis, one after another, not just the CBO, but others as well, say that, it could be 4 million Medicaid recipients, it could be 10 million, it could be 13.7 million if you take all of the maximum effects at face value. That's what Trump and the Republicans are attempting to impose. That's what David Sachs admits on his very popular podcast that they are attempting to do, trying to defend the bill. I wish they would cut more, but look at what all the major cuts that they're already doing. He said the quiet part out loud. Trump was humiliated in that podcast by people calling him out for his weak leadership and his fecklessness, and David Sachs totally sandbagged the Republicans trying to lie about what their bill would do. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.